Backflows designed to be put in horizontal to the ground, and they want the vent pointing straight down towards the bed of gravel. Backflows are not designed to be installed vertically. There's only one name brand backflow approved by the USC and only one model to be installed vertically. And that particular unit has an air gap affiliated with it that turns the discharge down towards the ground. Those units are popular in confined areas, but they're limited because they're the only one that meets that criteria. All other backflows are designed to be installed horizontally, a maximum of 5 feet tall and a minimum of 12 inches off grade. And so those are code requirements for the plumbing inspector to require. They also have what's called unleaded valves. In the plumbing industry, a few years back, the laws were changed and the plumbers can only use unleaded valves for the sake of protecting the water. And so the leaded valves are not allowed to be used on potable water systems. Well, a composite backflow is naturally an unleaded valve because there's no brass in the system. It's all composite. So you meet those standards automatically when you use a composite backflow. Poor support. Unstable installation leads to long-term stress cracks. Every job I put in is installed and inspected by a plumbing inspector. Every job we do is permit is pulled, so it has to meet code. Well, 36 years later, I've pulled more plumbing permits for the city of Memphis than any other contractor in regards to backflow preventers. Well, I've had plenty of learning lessons over the years when the plumbing inspectors were informing me of what their needs and requirements were. I've been doing it so long that now I help advise the plumbing department and have gone to local city of Bartlett and put continuing education talks on about the cross-connection industry. There's a need out there for us to approach some of the municipalities that are still allowing PVBs and double checks where the state of Tennessee requires reduced pressure zones. And so RPZ valves. RPZ, if you're new to the verbiage, stands for Reduced Pressure Zone Backflow Preventer. Skipping testing. Skipping testing is I actually teach the class for the state of Tennessee for technicians to become certified to test backflows. Backflows are required to be tested once a year for point of entry. Double check backflows are required to be tested twice a year, and irrigation backflows are encouraged and just this side of required to be tested between March 1st and June 30th. The state of Tennessee prefers that they be tested the moment the irrigation system is turned on. A few get through the cracks, and we're still testing some irrigation backflows today, this late in the year, as late as October. But you don't want to skip the testing. The testing, anytime you install a backflow, it has to be tested and registered with the water purveyor and inspected by the code. Anytime you repair a backflow, it has to be permitted and those results turned into the water purveyor and code enforcement. Anytime you remove a backflow, it has to be inspected by the plumbing department in order to get them off the list and documented the fact that this backflow in fact has been removed. And so they're tested upon removal, they're tested upon installation, they're tested upon repair, and they're tested annually. No matter if nothing's been done to the backflow in the last year, it's still required to be tested annually. One of the main reasons they want backflows tested for irrigation in the spring is because if somebody has cut that backflow out, and they call it straight pipe, just put 2 PVC elbows and straight piped it, well, if that system isn't getting checked until October, then that means that irrigation system just ran all summer long with no protection. And that's why they encourage you to test them in the springtime when you turn them on. The fourth, ignoring freeze zones. We just winterized a couple of backflows that we repaired right here on the Riverside Drive, corner of Bill Street and Riverside Drive, because they're not using them for the irrigation system currently. There's a problem with the irrigation system, but nonetheless, the backflows still have to be tested because they're registered. And of the 14 that were on this Tom Lee Park, 2 of them failed the inspection, and therefore we came back and repaired them and got them in working order, and documented the repairs, pulled the permit for the repairs, and are going to give those repairs to the water purveyor, MLG&W, whose office is right over here on Bill Street, right over the top of that hill, who are in charge of all that. MLG&W's cross-connection division. And so improper clearance is the 5th one, making future maintenance difficult. what that's talking about is this requirement that they don't want you to put it over 5 feet tall, so you don't have to have a ladder in order to test it. But the back side of that is they don't want you to put it in an area such that the installation keeps you from being able to take it apart to work on it. And then I encourage all the testers to make sure that they're aware of their surroundings, because the date that the backflow got put in originally, all that electronic equipment, all that video surveillance equipment, all that computer equipment that got put into the building got put in after the plumbing got put in, and it's quite common that the water that's spraying from you testing can ruin some very expensive equipment if you're not aware of your surroundings. And above and beyond that is electrical outlets. When you're working and testing a backflow, there's going to be water, and you want to make sure that you're not spraying water on a 110 volt outlet and not aware of it, and getting yourself in a very dangerous situation. So that's part of the requirements as a tester, is to get permission to cut the water off, inspect the situation and orientation of the backflow, and inspect and look at your surroundings so that you know whether what you're doing is safe or is not safe. And so one of the main things to consider is that electricity, because there is water involved, and you want to be aware of 240 volt outlets, 110 volt outlets, computer equipment, anything that's been installed after the plumbing was installed and has now created the possibility of electrical hazard or damage. They call it inspect, inquire before you commence your work. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.